Hello, hello, and welcome to another edition of Wander and Muse. I'm your host, Heather Wolpert, and I am here to showcase creatives, mostly from around Tucson, but truly could be worldwide, to give them a platform to share what they've been up to, their philosophies, their tips, so everyone leaves feeling a little bit more inspired. Today's guest is Katie Ormsby, graphic artist, and I cannot wait to hear more about her process and tell you about her style and whatnot. But for now, go ahead and head over to wanderandmuse.world to take a look at past podcasts. Email me at heather@wanderandmuse.world. And while you're listening, head over to katieroudesign.com. That's KatieRouDesign.com. Katie Rou Design, so you can take a look at some of the things that we'll be discussing today. Okay, let's get started. Hello, Katie.
Hi.
It's so good.
I know, I'm so glad to be here.
It's great to have you. I've always been such a fan of your work. It has such energy and color and personality, and I just love your style.
I love it. That's great to hear. I feel like it's hard to answer the question when someone's like, "What's your style?" I'm like, I don't know. I like to have fun.
You're right, and it
That's what
shows.
it is.
It shows that you like to have fun. Yeah, I know what
Yeah.
you mean. Even when people will ask me that, I'm like, oh, because I do so many different things that I don't even know how to put it into words sometimes.
Yeah.
And even if I do describe something, I'm sure they're not exactly picturing what it really looks like. But anyway,
Yeah.
enough about me. Let's talk about you. So, how long have you been a graphic designer? Let's start with that.
Yes. Let me see. So I have like two different answers. So
Okay.
I say about over 10 years of professional experience because
Gotcha.
I graduated college 10 years. It was March of 2013.
Okay.
So 10 years for like professional experience. But I've been designing in graphic, like I picked it up in high school. I was trying to think. It was either junior or senior year of high school.
Okay.
And so this was like 07,
Okay.
06.
So it was a class that was offered that you took?
Yeah.
That's a cool thing for high school. A lot of
I
times you don't get
know.
graphic design until college.
It was like either the first semester or like one of the first times that they brought this like elective art class. And I was talking to my guidance counselor or whatever to figure my class schedule. And I needed one more class to fill up my schedule. And I was like, well, I've already taken all the other art classes. Like the only creative class left was like home ec and like cooking. And I'm like, I don't really want to do that.
You don't want to make a pillow?
No, I mean, I took one sewing class and I was just, I don't know. There's too many rules.
English muffin pizzas?
I should have done that.
Yeah.
But she was like, hey, we just have this like new class. It's art, but on the computers.
Right.
Okay, well, I'll do that. And before then, I was artistic.
Right.
But in like the physical world, like my mom I grew up with my mom. She was come in, would teach us the art classes and like school. She would do all the art stuff for like the book fair. She would come in and
very cool.
Yeah, and in summer she would drop me and my sister off at different art classes, and I think partially to like give us skills, but also to like
get out of the house.
Yeah, get out of the house.
Give me some space, people.
So I never like really played with design on the computer, but I was like, I'll try it. And the first class, I remember that class went from, I went in the first day and I hated it.
Oh no.
Yeah. So our first assignment, the teacher, introduced herself, said, hey, we're doing design or graphic design, kind of did like whatever little background it was. And she said, okay, I'm going to let you play for the first day.
Okay.
And you have to come up with a design, use whatever program you want to use, you have to design your name tag.
Oh.
And so this name tag would be on like your desk, so
right.
People know who you are.
Yep.
And I look around, all my other classmates are pulling up Illustrator and Photoshop, but I'm like,
I don't know
what is this? And I'm like, I wish I had whatever I did. I don't, but I know I wish I did, but
do you like how it ended up turning out in the end?
I think in the end of the class I liked it because we did a couple cool projects, and once I learned more about the program, because the first class it was really just a gauge for the teacher to see where we were at
computer wise.
Yeah. And so mine was like rock bottom. Like I could open it, but that was it.
Wow.
But then like later on in the class, we had to make our own font. So that was
that's
cool. And that was, by that point we were really focusing on Illustrator. So since then, like since I was 16 or 17, whenever I took this class, like Illustrator's been my program.
Okay. Your program of choice?
Yes.
So with the font, had you previously done your own, handwritten typography?
No.
Oh, you hadn't even done that by hand. So you jumped right in to the computer side of it.
Yeah. So the premise for that project was we had like 2 or 3 fonts to pick. So it was like Helvetica, Arial, like, whatever.
Right.
And you take that and then you just manipulate that however you wanted.
Okay.
And I ended up doing something with these like swirly kind of curly Q lines. Like it was this chunky black font with these like white curly Q lines cutting through it.
Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
What'd you call it? I don't remember. That was a while back, eh?
I probably like made up some last minute name.
Wow. Does your teacher know that you went on to become a graphic artist?
Probably not. My memory is so bad with my teachers. I'm like, oh no. Like I don't remember the names, but like
how cool. And then from that class on, did you know, okay, I could actually see this as a career, or did that still take some time?
A little bit more time. It was when, so I took that class, and by the time it was finished, so maybe it was my junior year, because it was kind of like
a little more time in high school.
Yeah, and then because it was after that or around the end of that class was when you apply for colleges.
Right.
So that's when, like, well, what do I want to do? What do I want to be when I grow up?
I know.
That's
such a tough question.
I still don't
even
know.
now. I was just about to say, even now, I'm like, what should I do next?
Yeah, yeah. But I remember thinking I was torn between two degrees, like 2 majors, and at the time I thought these are completely different things, and now I'm like they're very similar. So one was psychology, because I loved like figuring out, at least for me, and I like analyzing why I did certain things, and and so I love that idea of it. And then the other was graphic design, because I loved art, but at that time, early 2000s, growing up, like you'll never make it as an artist. Like you got to pick something more, which is so dumb. I was 16. I don't know.
I know. But you're right. There is a definite connection between psychology and graphic design, or any art for that matter. So let's talk a little bit about that. I know that on your Instagram, Katie Rou Design, you have really done a lot of fun experiments really with color and color psychology and that sort of thing. So talk a little bit about that. For example, one thing that comes to mind recently is you came up with a mood board for Sagittarians, for example. So talk a little bit about that and the psychology connection with color, design, and all that.
So, and this is something that it's kind of, I was taught this in college, and even like before that, just in general art, like general art color theory, like red is going to be more aggressive or passionate kind of colors.
Exactly.
And just,
an Italian restaurant.
Yeah.
Right.
And then in college, taking design classes, learning just design history and like why certain colors are chosen for certain brands.
Definitely.
And then really the last couple years, when I've had a little bit more bigger state client presentations that I have to then defend my work to.
Yes.
And obviously you don't want a client to be like, oh, I hate this. Terrible. Yeah. What are you doing? You know?
But you can say, well, I chose blue because people need to trust you and that sort of thing, right?
Yeah. So and it's stuff that like I know in my head. So being able to verbalize it, and in a way that client or whoever you're talking to understands, like, oh, okay, I'm not really a huge fan of blue, but yeah, I'm like a health organization, and blue is really trusting and has loyalty. So getting into just being able to talk about color and how it affects your mood and things. We're also visual. You have like a second maybe to hook someone's attention. Right. And it's that attention span has just been getting shorter and shorter.
You're right. And even the psychology behind a font.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that.
So that's another huge thing. It's like colors and fonts and photos. Those are kind of like the 3 huge things when picking out a design. And so for a font, it's that affects, in my opinion, I feel like it affects a little bit more because you not only have to talk about and express like the personality and the brand values and all of that stuff, but you also have to make sure that you can read it.
Right.
And depending on what colors you're using, like if it's a lighter font on a darker background, well, you might have to bump up the font sizes a couple more than you would normally, so it's bigger, or you can't.
Or not use script if you know that the audience is going to be, you know, a younger age group or something like that.
And I actually on my Instagram just posted for like 2024 design trend predictions for fonts, and I had done a similar thing for my job for 2023. So when I was researching just for 2024, I'm like, these are a lot of the same things. I feel like it's just kind of more so, and all these trends kind of come in circles anyways. But it was like kind of mid-ish 2000s. It was a lot of like that sans serif, that very geometric, very like but anyway, so they're using a lot of like sans serifs, and it was a lot of very corporate kind of feeling, but it was lacking that personality, and everything looked the same. It was same copy paste, but that was that clean, like minimal design that they were going for. But now everyone's like, well, we're kind of bored with that. Everyone's blending in. We want to see personality. So at least with type, people are getting a little bit more expressive. You know, serifs are coming back. More customized fonts are coming back, and same with color. Like we're not using those minimal neutrals. You know, we're getting really loud with all of our colors. We're using a lot of bright stuff.
And speaking of color, let's talk about the Pantone color of the year, Peach Fuzz. I remember when I first saw that, I wasn't sold on it. But how did you feel about Peach Fuzz? Did it grow on you? Or?
I feel like I went through a wide range of emotions within the first like 30 seconds of like scrolling on Instagram. First thing I wake up and I see Pantone color of the year Peach Fuzz. I'm like, no, that looks bad. Why are we doing this? Then I'm like, well, okay, I guess it's not that bad. And then I'm thinking back like, well, I've used very similar colors that I've just added in in the last week alone to projects.
Exactly.
I'm like, all right, it's growing on me. So I think it's a good alternative to like a neutral color.
That's true. Has a little warmth to it. It's not just the standard neutral, yet it plays well with others.
Yes.
And I think also not only is it just the color of the year and how that is used, but what accompanies it. When you come up with an entire palette where that is one of the 3 or 5 colors in a palette, and then it jives well when you balance it out with something a little more bold and something with a little more depth to it than the Peach Fuzz. I think it's the name that bothers me more than the color itself.
It's just like a skin tone color, and I'm like, I don't want like skin as a color. I don't know. At least not like that. I don't know. I'm not. I'll still use it though.
Let's move on to talk about some of the clients that you have designed for, because especially for people in Tucson, they're going to be very familiar with some of them. For example, Vantage West Credit Union, Dillinger Brewing, lots of beer, Mission Brewing, the Grower House, Black Renaissance was cool. Talk a little bit about that, like how you came to even connect with these businesses and the process you had with making them happy with what you presented to them.
It's kind of been a lot. I feel like it's kind of the same answer for a lot of Tucson things, where it's just you just are in a room with someone.
It's true.
And you just right time, right place kind of situation. Like for Vantage West, that was a client that when I was working at a company called BRINK in Tucson. And that was one of the first like big clients that at least they got when I was there. And I got to be, I kind of started as like a supporting designer. And then eventually ended up being able to be one of the main designers for, I did a lot of their print ads.
Good.
I got to do, one of my favorite projects I got to do for Vantage West was a streetcar design.
Oh, nice.
And it was like, I think it was like a 40 some hours or something for me to do this design.
Wow.
And it was a lot of late nights, and it was this illustrated kind of line art design of Tucson. And so it was on the streetcar. So the streetcar is mostly downtown, but we wanted to represent all the different areas of Tucson.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it was cool to talk to everyone who worked at BRINK at the time, talk to the client, talk to like my friends and family who are either born and raised in Tucson or have been here so much they practically are born and raised.
Right, right.
So it's cool to talk to everyone and see like, oh, what's your favorite thing on the east side or the south side, or like, and making sure we're pulling in. So, and it was fun. We wanted it to kind of be like a Where's Waldo situation.
Oh, I like that.
So it looks cool when you're driving by or the streetcar was passing you, or if you're at the bus stop or you're just walking on the street and you're at a stoplight and you look over and there's a streetcar. You can see all these little illustrations. So we had like the T-Rex dinosaur from the McDonald's in there. We had a bunch of, we couldn't use the logos, but we used I did a little icon for the EGs, like a little EG thing.
Right.
So we had little EGs kind of everywhere.
That's fun.
Had little like javelinas running around. We just had a little fun.
Yeah, very Tucson.
It was really fun. That one, and it was funny, the client loved the design. It was the banner with the tagline that we went back and forth. We probably went through like a dozen iterations just on that alone.
Huh. Okay.
But so that was a really fun one. And yeah, that was just, that was a client from the job that I was at the time.
Okay.
Dillinger is probably like my favorite kind of client.
Those designs are awesome.
It was so much fun. That was definitely a right place, right time. Because when Dillinger's first opened, and they were on Oracle and kind of close to the Tucson Mall. And anyways, that brewery was almost the exact halfway point between where I was coming from BRINK at the time to my apartment. And so there's so many days, I'd text my husband and be like, you want to go? Let's go to Dillinger's and get a beer.
Perfect.
So we would just kind of meet there after work. And I don't know, we'd been going there. We were pretty regulars. We had they have chalk markers at the time for their menu boards. So we wrote our names on the chairs we would always sit on.
That's hilarious. And, like Norm on Cheers.
Yeah.
This is my chair.
These are our chairs. And so we were talking to the owners, and they were talking like they wanted to start expanding. I think they'd been around for like a year-ish at that point. And they're like, yeah, we want to start canning. And they started, talking about that. So I was like, well, here's my opening. Yes. And I was like, well, you're trying to can. So who's your designer? And they're like, I don't know. We'll probably just whip something up. And I'm like, well, I am a designer.
And I love beer.
And I love beer. And I come here all the time. Here's my chair. And
see the chalk?
Yeah. And so they were like, well, we can't pay you because we're new. And I'm like, that's fine.
I just want to design for beer.
And so they're like, we'll pay you in beer. And I said, okay.
I love it. I love it. Really?
Yeah. And I was like, can I bring my husband? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Okay.
To this day, they're like, that is the most expensive can that you've designed. Because yeah, my husband and I were like, well, what time are you open?
Oh my goodness.
And we had asked can we bring growlers? Can we get to-go stuff? And they're like, yeah, sure. And so we open up at noon. So we're like, okay, we Ubered there. We had a backpack with snacks.
That's hilarious.
And we stayed late. There was a U of A basketball game too. So it was an all-day affair. Those
cool. Designs turned out so well.
The design was super fun. It was the Goza Rosa can. And that one was also fun because we got to do 3 iterations of it because they just did 3 releases of it for canning, and they kind of they tweaked the recipe a couple different times.
Oh, okay.
And so that first design, it was way different from where we ended the can designs. Okay. It was more of a monotone kind of purpley color. It was a blackberry kind of sour. So it was a lot of plain on those colors.
Okay.
And then, I think the next can might have been Tiki Party.
Yeah, I remember seeing that one. Do you want to talk about the work you did with Black Renaissance?
Yes. So Black Renaissance was so much fun to work on. Yeah. I got to kind of step in and help out for 2019, and then do some stuff for 2020, that was crazy looking back at it because all that was happening the month before everything shut down for COVID. It was in February.
Oh, wow.
And then also did some stuff for 2021 for them. I think that was still a little bit more virtual because we're still kind of coming back from the pandemic. But I got pulled in for that one by my friend Sean Louie.
Oh, sure.
So he's also a musician. You can check him out.
Yeah.
But I worked with him at BRINK. And
that's right.
yeah.
And I think of him as Creative Mornings too. That's
also, he is a jack of all trades. He's everywhere. And he's the coolest guy.
Cool.
He's so much fun. But yeah, he's, we were talking, and I was like, oh yeah, I can help with that.
Oh.
So for 2019, it was kind of tweaking the logo that was designed by someone else and turning that into a poster.
Gotcha.
Adapting that poster design to, taking that style and fitting it to all of the different events that they were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so all those events got a poster. They also got an Instagram story size image, and then like a square image for them to post on social media. So taking that design, and that was, which I've already done in all my works previously, is just taking one design, and that's part of branding. You just take a design and adapt it again and again, many iterations. It's fun to do that, in more of a freelance capacity. That was one of my bigger branding freelance stuff to do.
And speaking of posters, I remember recently when the TENWEST festival was going on, Startup Tucson's TENWEST festival, there's a picture of you standing next to the poster you had designed that was in Startup Tucson's window. And how cool is that to see your designs out in the wild?
It was so much fun. That was for 2019.
Right.
So it's a little flashback. But it is cool to see what they're doing now. They've still kept that.
It's very similar.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was still your design, because it's very similar.
It's very, very similar.
Yeah.
They're kind of tweaking it.
Gotcha.
So it's more it's more black on the background with the colors popping off of it.
Oh, I guess you're right.
Yeah. So it's kind of inverted a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was just so much fun. And that was such a collaborative thing. That was another BRINK project.
Okay, good.
And it was, we got TENWEST as a client. They're like, we really, here's the logo that we have, which is just that the TENWEST kind of icon that you see. And then they really like that font. And they liked, I think it was the blue. They're teal blue color.
Right.
And I think that, and they had a couple things that they had printed from the previous year with those elements. And I think that's why there might have been a couple other ones, but that was the main thing. And so they're like, we want it to look different. We want it to look better.
Okay.
So that was kind of our parameters. How do we take all these existing things, jazz it up, make it look really cool?
Right.
So that was kind of a huge collaborative thing with me and the art director and the other designer. And we all it was a lot of going our separate ways, coming up with our ideas and coming together.
I like that.
And, it was a lot of apart and together. And then
which works a lot of the times too, where you can kind of let your own creative juices flow. And then once you get together in a group, you kind of bounce all your ideas off of each other and then build something completely new that wouldn't have existed if not for all your individual ideas. So that synergy is what really makes something develop even more so. It's a power in numbers sort of thing. I love that. Yeah. So you've had all these really cool clients. Who would be a dream client for you?
I mean, after working with Dillinger and Mission, I don't think I have a specific client, but I do know the industry is beer. I love everyone. My husband and I go to beer fest all the time. Just through doing the design work, even through my other business, Boom's Closet, where I'm a vendor. I make jewelry.
Boom's Closet. I should mention that. Yeah.
Well, I'm plugging
it
now.
Now you are. Good.
But Boom's Closet is it's kind of a little bit of everything.
Right.
But mostly jewelry, a lot of beer related things.
That's true, huh? Yeah.
Yeah. And so for that, I've, set up as a vendor and for markets at breweries. So I just have all these different connections with breweries, and it's just so much fun. Everyone there, it's just a good time. Beer's great. I love how the freedom that comes with beer design.
Oh, okay.
You can literally put anything on a beer
can.
That's
true, because anything goes, and the better the design, the more likely someone is to try it for the first time. Even it's almost like when you pick out, for me at least, because I'm not very hoity-toity when it comes to wine, I'll go for the label. Look at that label. I bet it's pretty good. It's the same thing for beer.
Yeah, and I've definitely picked so many beers that I love, and also ones that I did not like. But the label was really cool, so I couldn't not grab it.
Exactly.
It's just,
All right, so any breweries or
breweries,
beer folks out there,
yep.
Katie Rou Design.
I gotcha.
And then for people to find out more about Boom's Closet, can they get to that through Katie Rou, or do you have
it's separate.
Okay, what's that link?
So Boom's Closet on Instagram, it's Boom's Closet Store. And then everything's linked on there. If you search Boom's Closet Store in Google, it'll show up.
And we're saying boom as in BOOM.
Yes.
Boom, kaboom.
Yes.
Cool. Let's see what else. So when you're given a project and you're in front of your computer and that screen is just staring back at you, how do you begin?
It's one of two ways. Either I type out, say I'm working on a logo. I feel like branding and logos is what I do a lot. Or a phrase I need to design. So I'll type that out, and I usually type it out in like title case and then in all caps.
Okay.
And then I have those two lines, and then I just go and find fonts.
Okay.
And so I just highlight those two and then scroll through my fonts, and I find a font that I like. I'm like, cool, save that, copy, paste it, and continue my search.
Okay.
And so I just have rows and rows and rows of the same thing repeated over.
All right.
And I like having whatever I'm looking at, whatever words typed out in title case and all caps, so you can see what all those letters are going to look like.
Or how they connect sometimes, or
yeah,
balance it out. Or,
And so then once I'm like, okay, I think something's in there, then I kind of start whittling that down.
Okay.
So like, here are my faves, and then like, here's something I want to play a little bit more.
Right.
Oh, this one I can tie the G in with the T here, or stack it somehow, and so I can play around with that. So I either do that, or I just go straight to the internet and start pulling anything that might be inspiration.
Yes.
So that's where I post on my Instagram a lot of mood boards. So that's kind of like the prettier version of finding all of these inspiration photos.
Exactly.
And this could be even going on like a stock website and finding photos, or going on Pinterest, or finding colors, or walking around outside, just kind of anything that might relate back to whatever the project is. And then kind of the same concept with the type. I throw them all together in the same thing, pull some apart. I might separate them into categories and just see what happens.
Right. And then when it comes to brand identity, when you meet with someone for the first time, what do you ask them to figure out what their brand identity is if they actually don't know yet? Because I would think that would happen sometimes.
Yeah. And even when they think that they do know, they don't actually know. Or they don't, there's holes, we're missing things. That is, that's something that I'm kind of working on still, is kind of maybe having a better set list of questions.
Right.
But it's kind of organic, because it depends on what they already have.
Right.
Who they are as a person,
right.
What they're trying to do. I think the basic question is like, obviously, like, what do you do? What's your target audience? And by target audience, it's not just the types of people. It's like, where do they live? What are they doing? What are they a parent? Are they what age? Are they in college? Finding out this person that they're trying to get.
Exactly.
And then seeing what those people, what brands that they're looking at.
Exactly.
Because you could be a business owner and you think, oh, I'm going after college kids and they really like, stickers. Like, well, maybe they don't. You don't know.
Right.
You got to look at it.
Yeah. Do your research.
Yeah.
Definitely. Let's see. One more thing I wanted to talk about before we wrap it up is you have a poster project. And not only do I love the actual look of the posters, but I love how you kind of take people behind the scenes of how you're designing them. I love that. So talk a little bit about that.
So the poster project, it has such a special place in my heart. So that was a thing that came out of COVID and having to work, going remote.
Gotcha.
And at that point, I had never worked remote. I'd always gone into the office. And the company that I was at, we were all kind of in the same mindset. Like, I don't know, we just didn't know how to function.
Right.
Well, working remotely.
It was a doozy. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other situational things. Like, my apartment had no windows, so I was in this room all the time. And
that sounds very sad.
It was so isolating. And so it was just like, I was struggling. I had no creative juices at all. I'm like, I got to do something. I got to find the love of design.
Wow. I can't believe you didn't have any windows.
We had 2 windows. It was not, we had no light.
Oh,
it was terrible. But so it was I needed to fall in love with design. I decided, well, I need to give myself some kind of challenge. I want to do something with design. I want to learn. I feel like for me in design, I thrive the most when I'm learning something new. And I never want to say that I know everything.
Right.
I don't. And everything.
Right. You should continue to evolve always.
And so I was like, well, you know, I said earlier, I was like, Illustrator is my jam. So I'm like, well, I should probably get better at Photoshop. Like, I know Photoshop. Like, I can do stuff.
Sure.
Like, I should probably get better at it. So I wanted to challenge myself and learn new things. And like, you know, I'm constantly doing tutorials. And so it's kind of just finding a way to take these new things I'm learning, these random tutorials I'm doing, trying to find that spark again, and giving it all a purpose within this poster project.
Right.
And so I had very little rules for myself, but it was, my main rule was if I started a poster that day, by the end of the day, so before midnight at that day, I had to post whatever that was.
Oh, cool.
And that also helped beating that perfectionism thing.
Yes.
Like, I can't share it. It's not ready yet.
Well, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yep.
And I didn't want to assign like, you know, 30 posters in 30 days.
Right.
I didn't want that.
Right.
But it was just a lot of fun ways and ways to take the skills that I learned that I love in Illustrator, and how I can apply that to Photoshop, and just learning all these, and definitely finding this new style that kind of evolved with this surrealism collage. Yeah.
Which I love to do manually. I always am tearing things from magazines and that sort of thing and cutting them, gluing them together. So it's cool to see you doing it graphically, because it's a similar thing, really. It's just no glue and scissors, pretty much.
Yeah, that is one of my main favorite things about graphic design, is you don't have all the mess of physical art.
That's right. That's so funny.
No eraser lines anywhere.
Right. And I just want to reiterate something you said before about your poster project and how you were forcing yourself to show whatever you had at the end of the day and not to go for perfectionism, just simply to create. And that, I think, is incredibly important for anyone who's listening to really hear that what it's about is creating something. Don't worry if you don't like it or you think other people won't like it. It's really about taking the time to sit down and create whatever you're creating, just to create, and don't go for perfectionism. Maybe you'll end up getting perfectionism at the end of it, but I think it's cool to just create.
Yeah, I 100% agree.
Yeah. So again, I want to say KatieRouDesign.com. Definitely head over there and you can find Katie's Instagram links and LinkedIn and all that there. So definitely follow her, because she definitely is an inspiration. Whether you are a graphic designer or not, you're going to enjoy her fun, energetic, colorful designs. And any last words, tips, inspiration, anything you'd like to say before we wrap up today?
If anyone has any fun design works or you're stuck on something, hit me up. Let's have some fun and make some magic.
Yes, I love it. All right. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. And be sure to go over to wanderandmuse.world to catch up on my most recent podcast. And at the very bottom, you'll see a little tip cup. Thanks so much for listening. Everyone, go out and create something today.